What's up guys, my name is Dychronic here on this Destiny 2 video, and today there was a trailer release. It's basically the release trailer. We are one day away from Warmind. They released a trailer with a lot of cool little information. They gave us a kind of first look into the new raid lair, the new sets of armors and weapons, a new exotic scout rifle, new exotic sword. They talked about a whole lot of stuff, more than talk about. They showed us a whole bunch of stuff. I'm going to be dissecting this trailer and whatnot, but before I dissect it, I'm going to go ahead and play it for you right here.
Do you copy? The most dangerous weapon in this system is on this planet, and an entire army of Hive is trying to destroy it. This is a war of many fronts, and there's more than one way to fight it.
And you think Rasputin is the answer? It's a broken weapon, too dangerous to be left alone and too unpredictable to wield. Rasputin was not the only thing to awaken on Mars.
The first thing I want to say is that I did not expect for them to actually give us an inside look of what the raid lair actually looked like. For the most part, it kind of just looked like the Castellum, so technically they didn't really show us much, but it's still weird because they usually don't show us anything about the raids. They're just like, it's secret, don't tell anybody. But we'll have to wait and see exactly how certain things work, and I'll be dissecting that part of the trailer once we get there. If you do end up liking this video, guys, make sure you leave a like down below. It really helps the channel out. It does take a long time to get these videos going, dissect the whole thing, and to go through them. And if you are excited for Warmind, let me know in the comments down below. I really would like to see some hype in the comments. Anyways, let's go ahead and get into it. So there's not anything particularly interesting in the very beginning of it. We have different sights of people shooting things. There's a guy with a kind of FAMAS-looking pulse rifle in his hand. At some point we see the hand cannon. That's a very Warmind-themed hand cannon. One thing I would like to point out is we actually get to see the legs on a couple of different armor pieces. In the middle we have a Titan. I just want to point out he's got spikes on the bottom of his boots, and these are one of the best looking legs I've seen in a very long time. You know, except for maybe on very large-based women, but I'm just saying. And as a Titan in the game, these are some pretty sturdy-looking legs. Coming here around the 25-second mark, we can see this humongous knight. Very frozen dude, nice little green eye straight across the middle. He's huge. He's about to do a giant melee slam. I think this is one of the cooler looking bosses. Obviously, we've had large knights before. Obviously, we've fought Crota, which is just a giant knight. This guy is no different from that, but it's just always cool to see giant enemies just come out of nowhere. Most likely, this guy is going to be one of those Escalation Protocol bosses. I don't know if he's one of those end game or the end of the 7-round bosses or in the intermittent bosses. We'll have to wait and see. Coming up next is gonna be this ogre here. I think this guy looks half of this is like absolutely terrifying. The other half, oh, he's so adorable. One thing I want to note is that he's actually got these little spiky things as if this is a giant mandible, almost like he can open up his entire head. Perhaps he'll have this incredible attack instead of like a single eye shooting out laser beams. Maybe it'll be an attack where it opens up his mouth and has this giant like wave of destruction. They do give us a nice little preview of the Valkyrie relic weapon. They do have shown this a lot, so it's not really anything really particularly different. I also want to mention that the armor of this guy in the air is the Titan armor. This is definitely an armor set that looks pretty good, at least for the Titan, that I definitely want to go out and get. And of course, coming up next, we have a very small sneak preview into the Raid Lair Spire of Stars. Now, they don't really show us much. Again, it looks very similar to the Castellum. It's not really underground in this section here. Perhaps this is just an opening area. Again, they never really like to show us exactly what's going on. They want you to find it out for yourselves. The only things I could really glean from this is that there's this kind of blue well waterfall thing in the middle. I don't think that this is just a fire thing. Perhaps it's part of some mechanic, maybe healing, maybe fire attack. Maybe you have to collect souls here. I'm not too sure how it works. Very lastly, before they end this kind of Raid Lair section, they kind of go underground here and they kind of show that you're going down below, very similar to the Raid Lair works. I can't really glean too much information from what's actually going on in this little shot here, but it's definitely showing that we're going in and it's going to be dark. So hopefully we find something that's not powering the Leviathan. Maybe we'll find something that has to do with the Callous boss. Maybe we'll actually upset him in this one. Maybe he'll actually come and fight us, bro. Coming up next, we have some images of the new Warlock armor piece. This looks very similar to the Claws of Ahamkara. It actually just literally could be the Claws of Ahamkara. I'm not too sure. I'm not too familiar with them. They look very similar. They are an exotic that are new to the game. I think they're called Claws of Ahamkara. They could be different. I know there's an Ahamkara something. I think it has to do with claws for the Warlock. It is an exotic that was in Destiny 1 that's coming to Destiny 2 in this expansion, so they're showing it off. Really love the fact that only 3 of those talons are yellow. I think that's a very nice color choice. But for the most part, they're showing off the gun here. Now, this gun actually will be talked about a little bit later on, is actually an exotic scout rifle called the Pulsar something. When we get there, I'll mention it. But before we talk about that, let's talk about the Worldline Zero exotic sword. We're finally getting our first exotic sword to Destiny 2. This weapon looks very similar to the way the Arc Bolt did in Destiny 1, but acts more similar to the Dark Drinker. It seems like you have basic attacks, you also have an uppercut attack, and then finally you have that Dark Drinker spinny attack at the same time. So we'll have to wait and see exactly how that is incorporated, having 2 different types of heavy attacks, but overall this weapon looks freaking awesome. I love the fact that it's arc, looks like a big old like arc baton on it, and I cannot wait to use some exotic swords. I've been waiting so long for swords to just be OP again and get some exotic swords and go down there and get up in front and in those people's faces. So next shot we have here is going to be the shot for the Polaris Lance, exotic scout rifle thing I was talking about earlier. I'm fairly certain it is the same weapon as before. In the background of this particular shot, I just actually noticed the hunter in the background. His helmet has 2 eyes. I thought initially that was going to be Nighthawk. No, correction. It is going to be that exotic that we've seen, the worm something, Bane, whatever. Yeah, okay, so it is going to be that exotic helmet. I thought there was going to be an exotic in pretty much every single one of these, so ignore what I saw in the previous one. That's the worm something, whatever it is, I forget what it's called, on the Hunter's exotic helmet list. Coming up in this next section, there's a lot of kind of points into the lore. The fact that the Hive want to come destroy Rasputin. Apparently Rasputin has still been acting against the Hive, and the Hive for some reason want to destroy it, even though humans haven't operated it in forever. We got a lot of shots of different acolytes and Hive enemies. Next up, we see some gameplay of the new strike featuring Nokris, who's actually the herald of the worm god known as Zol. Zol is one of the 5 Hive dudes that created the Hive in the first place. They call him one of the 5 worm gods, and Nokris is one of his heralds. I made a mistake in a previous video by calling Nokris one of the 5 worm gods. Technically, he's not, but he is the herald, so, you know, it's pretty cool. One thing I wanted to note about what they were saying, Anabre literally just said there's more than one way to fight it.
And there's more than one way to fight it.
Now, I figure this might be a kind of pattern of speech where she's just like, hey, you can fight it with a hand cannon, you can fight it with explosives, or perhaps this is to imply that there is actually more than one way to fight him. Perhaps instead of just doing damage, there's a way to get some skulls or something to up your damage, or you have to stand on different plates, or instead of plates you have to go attack some knights to lower his defenses, or maybe you can up your attack and lower his defenses with some other things. Maybe there's many ways to defeat him. We don't really know as it is. This could be a new way for strikes to have more interesting encounters, or perhaps maybe each boss, every time you fight him in the boss fight, he'll he'll have a different way to beat him. Just want to point out right here in this little cutscene, I love Zavala's face. Like, the door opens, Anna's like, yay, let's go. The exotic's like, beep boop, and then Zavala is all like, huh? Coming up in this next shot, we actually get a first-person view of what looks like that Pulsar scout rifle. Again, I keep forgetting the second word on it. It's Pulsar something. It's that Pulsar exotic scout rifle. It seems like the same gun, so it looks like we got a first-person view of it. Very interesting, new design. Hopefully there's a whole set of guns that are similarly themed. We also seem to get more shots of the new weapons. We see the Suros regime. We all know and love this weapon. It's an auto rifle that we've always loved in the previous game. So we got more shots here. Can't wait to get my hands on that, but we do already know about it. And the last few shots of the trailer has us standing next to this kind of mine-looking thing that looks like a satellite from space that crashed through a hole. I have no idea why they showed us this in particular. It seemed like it was somewhat of a focus of climax and dramatization. I don't know what this is about. It could just be something trivial, but it seems like they wanted us to lead up to that as the climax, and that seemed to be an important thing. And before the very end, you gotta see that giant worm crashing through the area. We saw this worm in the background of a few shots on Mars. We're kind of like running around in the back. Seems like the Dune worms from Dune, kind of just running around, probably inspired, considering that I think it was on Mars in Dune. It's kind of a copyright there, bud. But hopefully we'll be able to see this worm actually in action in maybe a strike, maybe in the final boss encounter in the campaign, maybe even in the raid. How cool would it be? And that's it. That's the trailer. Again, the biggest things are you have to see the different exotic weapons, like the sword, the pulsar, the huckleberry they talked about again, the Suros. You get different exotic armors like that hunter helmet, the Klazam Kara for the warlock, probably a bunch of other exotics that I totally just missed. If you want a list of all the exotics we found out a couple weeks ago, there was a press release. They showed off a lot of armors, 2 weapons. I have a video I released a couple weeks ago about the new exotics, so go check that out if you're interested. Anyways, that's the video for you guys. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Let me know what you think of that exotic sword, the new Pulsar scout rifle, which I continually forget the second word on, and of course the DLC in general. Are you guys hyped to see the DLC come out tomorrow? I am super hyped. If you're as hyped as I am, come join me. I'm going to be live streaming over at Twitch TV. Find it in the description down below. Hashtag plugged at the end of the video. Let's go! Anyways, we're going to be playing the campaign. I'm going to have Fantastical Gamer there. Going to have Sarasu. We're going to get through that campaign quickly, answer questions. Maybe you guys can play along, you know, see if you can beat us. Maybe in like a little mini race. So make sure you guys do preload it at 7 a.m. Pacific time, and of course play it at 11 a.m. Pacific time. Anyways, that's the video for guys today. Hope you guys did enjoy. My name's been Dychronic, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Fuck is it called, man? A pulsar what? Polaris. Polaris. Polaris Lance! I've been calling it Pulsar, it's Polaris.